Hey, how you doing? It's the Daily Rabbit Hole. This is the morning report. I am Antonio Hare, and I'll be your host. Got a good batch of stories today I want to talk about. All right, we're gonna cover 23andMe's bankruptcy, Trump's revokes of the security clearance for Clinton, Harris, and a few others, and we got a curious case with an attorney and her sudden death. All right, definitely want to talk about that. Now, before we get into the stories, I want to say thank you for sticking with the brand for 2 years. I say this because we've expanded new formats, new segments, new ideas, same theories. Let you guys figure it out. Okay. So, the big thing that I want to say is that we are now on Spotify, YouTube, and Rumble. We've cut our feed from Facebook because of the censorship and just too much with the monetization and the policies and all that. Kind of over that. It's kind of a bottleneck on censorship and it doesn't really help. All right. So, what we're doing now is taking the next step in becoming an independent outlet. All right. Alternative media has grown over the last decade or so, and even more after 2020. All right. People don't trust legacy media anymore. So, I feel it's necessary that brands like the Daily Rabbit Hole and other alternative media outlets show their face, bring their voices out, and talk about the propaganda and or reports, excuse me, that we don't hear about often. All right. So we're gonna take a deep dive. Let's get into this show. It's not gonna be crazy long. Not doing 2, 3 hours. The morning report will only be an hour. At the less, 45 minutes. All right. So we're gonna have a good time. Also, feel free to go to the website, thedailyrabbithole.org. You see it on the stroll bar at the bottom. Follow me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Telegram. I'm pretty much everywhere, guys. It's not hard to find me. All right. All right. First story. Now, in news, Pope Francis is back after his 5 week stint in the hospital with double pneumonia. Two of the cases, which were really life threatening, almost lost his life. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is because a couple months ago, the Pope did a ritual. All right. He did a ritual in which he opened the doors, part of the Jubilee and whatnot. We're going to get into that. All right. Here we go. All right. So, for the inaugurated 2025 Jubilee, Pope Francis opens the Holy Door of St. Peter's Basilica, thereby officially inaugurating the 2025 Jubilee of Hope. He assures during his Christmas evening Mass that the Christ child of Bethlehem offers the world infinite hope and joy. Sure, that headline sounds real hunky dory, real huggy. All right, but in this rabbit hole, we've always talked about rituals, seances, soul cooking or soul harvesting, and topics like that. Now, people think opening portals isn't a real thing. I want to explain to you that it is very real, but not what you think it is. So, for the Pope, let's think about this. If if the Pope is the religious figure of the whole world or just religion itself, right? He's the head man, kind of the guy pushing out what wants to be known and what doesn't want to be known. Okay, so the Pope does rituals, ends up on basically his deathbed. We like to think that there's a connection to that because we understand when you make yourself a vessel for entities, energy, anything that you can think of spiritual wise, we know that it could take a toll on the body. The Pope ain't young, guys. Pope is old. Pope is 88 years old. It's a little old to be out here trying to open portals and rituals. So this could be a way for him to end up stepping down. If you believe in the 8chans and all these conspiracies, you've heard that this could be the last pope. My honest thought that it's very possible. It's very possible that this could be the last one. Now, does it mean it will? No, not necessarily. But it does mean that something happened with the Pope to where he opened these 4 or 5 doors at the Vatican. While sure it's being done for we'll say religious purposes or Christmas or whatever, we do know that there's a satanic death cult marching the world. All right. So the Pope opening the holy door was fairly significant and is deemed holy since it calls all those who enter through it to walk in its holiness and life. In the footsteps of the Pope during the singing of the Jubilee hymn, representation of the entire people of God crossed this threshold as a prelude to the countless pilgrims of hope from every country and language who will visit St. Peter Basilica and celebrate the mysteries and salvation during the holy year. All right. So 2025, this is considered a holy year. The last time they did it was like 2016, and before that, it was 2000. I'll leave that little gem for you. 2000 alone, right? All right. So Pope Francis is back. He's running the religious world. He was doing it from his bed initially. We should at some point start asking for younger leadership and saner leadership, because if you don't know what he's exactly doing, and if you believe in the Bible and the spiritual warfare, then you understand that there's something coming through these portals, or there's something going in. It's a two-way street. It's not a one-way thing. All right. So I'm not gonna sit on this article too hard. We got to jump through some stuff. All right. Got some good cases for you, good stories. All right. So I'm coming to this last part, and I always want to show the symbolism, the books and stuff and whatnot like that, right? Do you guys think that there's something to this? And I ask this because within our community, we know that there's more to the Vatican than just being the free man of the religious world and institutions and writing curriculum for it. All right. The Vatican is also a bank. It can hold funds, it can hold securities. In 2020, around the Epstein incident, the bank basically, not the bank, excuse me, the Vatican put out a statement from the Pope stating that you could hide your assets and all that stuff inside the Vatican. All right. So the Vatican is more than what we think it is. It's not just some holy shrine or some temple. Remember, people, you can visit. It's a little museum, not a little museum, but at the main part, there's a museum at the top, and at the bottom, there's 56 miles worth of information. All right. So these guys are holding religious scripts, doctrines, and anything that you could think of. All right. So just remember, the Pope opened portals for Christmas during the Jubilee, which we know is a Saturnalia. All right. Which is also known as a pagan holiday. All right. Now it's speed long. He's been in the hospital 5 weeks with double pneumonia because his body's weakened. That's what happens when you play with energy, spirits, and you're harvesting. All right. He made himself sick. He made himself a vessel, and he's reaping the consequences of it. It's just my honest opinion. You can take this information and go with it or not. I could sound crazy to you for all I know, but truth of the matter is there's something there. All right. The Vatican is the same group that sat here and told all of us that we would maybe start seeing entities. Like this is a thing. All right. So we're going on to the next topic now. This topic here, all right, guys are gonna lick your chops to this. So we have ex-US attorney, what's this young lady's name? Excuse me, Jessica Aber investigated Russia and CIA leaker before death. Jessica Aber is a former Biden appointed attorney. All right. She recently passed away. Rest her soul, but it's very mysterious in how it's happened. Now, when we cover what was going on, you're going to understand where I'm going with this. All right. She's a former attorney of the Eastern District of Virginia, and she was found dead in her home at 43 years old. Cause of death is not known right now, but there's a lot of speculation going around. All right. She was appointed by Biden, like I said, and she was known for her involvement in high security cases. All right. Few of these cases are pretty big. All right. Listen to this. She was investigating intelligence leaks into torture allegations. All right. And this is involving some Russian guy. Not sure exactly who, but the guy was Russian, allegedly. All right. So she was also involving a case involving an Israeli migrant smuggler, charges against ex-Virginia Governor Bob McDowell. And she reportedly resigned the day before Trump's inauguration. All right. Now, Before that inauguration resigned, think about the three things I just said. All right. She was Biden appointed, but she was investigating CIA leaks or intelligence leaks, Israeli spy smuggler, and torture allegations, and a governor. Now, if she's Biden appointed, now this kind of sounds like the Clinton issue, right? Where everyone who comes near the Clintons seems to disappear just like that, or eventually finds their house blowing up, or some strange report like a couple of years ago where this gentleman in Virginia stated that he thought someone was living next to him and it was basically gang stalking him. All right. That incident led to his house blowing up, and it was reported that he was with the Clinton Foundation. Excuse me. All right. I'm not going to pull that article up, but it is something to think about. Now, we have the same situation with Miss Jessica Aber. All right. Now, I picked Newsweek just because it's the most decent reporting that I'm going to get propaganda wise. All right. But it's some good key information in here. All right. We're going to go over a little bit of that. Where was I at? All right. Former U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia, Jessica Aber, who was found dead at the age of 43, was at the helm of a high-profile investigation into intelligence leaks, allegations of war crimes against Russia-linked individuals, and people suspected of providing sensitive U.S. technology to Moscow before she stepped down at the start of the year. Why does this matter? All right. An appointee of former President Biden resigned in January after President Trump was inaugurated. She had risen to lead one of the most important federal prosecutor offices, and roughly 300 prosecutors, civil litigators, and support personnel regularly tasked with national security and terrorism related cases. All right, so this is her. She wasn't a slouch. She was really out here. She was really doing her thing. All right. Now, I need all of you guys to think about what could have possibly happened, or what could she have possibly come up against. All right. So think about it. She's Biden appointed. She's looking into Moscow, Russia torture allegations, and she's looking into an Israeli smuggling ring. Those two things alone have been known to get people in trouble. All right. So you got to think, did she find something? Was something there? Like, these are questions that have to be asked. And I know it's hard to ask these questions when someone is, lost their lives and we've gone this way. But I'm going to be real. There's a connection between this too. People don't just mysteriously die. Like, there's a reason. There's always a reason. Whether it's their time to go home or they were snooping around and they found something. Now, if she's Biden appointed, then clearly she has to be investigating the right. That's what you would think. That's not always the case. Let's say that this young lady was a pit bull at her job, right? And she's sniffing, she finds something, and she starts digging and digging and digging. And like any good researcher, anybody looking for information, you find something and you bring it to them, and they're like, hey, you can't push this. We're going to discontinue the case, or you get the runaround, right? Okay. So Jessica Aber stepped down after Trump took office. Naturally, she's Biden appointed. Wasn't going to help her to stay there. But something that she was investigating led to her demise. All right. If you hear the storm in the in the background, it's a little rainy out here in Alabama. Didn't think it would be that loud. But anywho, Abner was investigating far more than just what they're reporting on. Now, I did look into Governor Bob McDonnell. I didn't look too far into that. We're going to do that tonight. So, wall break, the Rabbit Hole Report's on Spotify. All right. You guys are going to see that. That's the more investigative side. So, we're going to be talking about silent war, manipulation. We're going to be having a few investigative topics to go on. And this is going to be one of them. Officials getting too close to the truth. All right. And this is anybody. And why am I saying this? Because Trump is one of those officials who's gotten extremely close to the truth. And you see where we could be going with this. All right. Now we know what happened to people who investigated the Anthony Weiner laptop, the Hunter Biden laptop. We know anyone who's touched the Epstein case has either seen their demise, been attacked, or been taken off a case. All right. Or it's just been the runaround. All right. So there's a huge connection between a lot of the events that people call conspiracies and these deaths or these weird incidents. Prime example, right? The guy on the yacht and the dude in England who got hit by the car, his yacht drowned, his yacht went down. He was the only one that died. All right. Tech guy. We're going to cover that tonight too. There's a lot of situations out here that are happening that look like just plain old news and hey, this person just died, and it's not really that. This is what we call or what we mean by propaganda. All right. Now there's some half truths in here and there's some half lies in here. And a lot of times we can't decipher it because we don't know any better. But what I'm telling you is if anyone's investigating Israeli smuggling, intelligence leaks, torture allegations, governors, senators, when you put all those words together, you got a huge chance to find a big story and get yourself in trouble too. All right. So something to think about. Now, why does all this matter? Now, this next story that I got is something that's very known already. It's not really hush hush. All right. We're talking about Trump and his rescinding of all security clearances, right? Right. Now, I want you guys to understand something with security clearances. They last as long until someone revokes them. And people like Hillary, Obama, Biden, Kamala, anyone from the left and anyone from the right has a security clearance based on their position in the House or the seats or the Congress, wherever, right? Okay. Now listen to these names that no longer have security clearance. We have Anthony Blinken, Jacob Sullivan, Lisa Monaco, Mark Zaid, Norman Eisen, Letitia James, Alvin Bragg, Andrew Wiseman, Hillary Clinton, Elizabeth Cheney, Kamala Harris, Adam Kinzinger, Fiona Hill, Alexander Weidman, Joseph R. Biden Jr., and any member of the Joseph R. Biden family. Whole family had a security clearance. Trump was like, absolutely not. Why does your grandma have one? It's like old people with 150 years of Social Security checks, guys. Come on. Therefore, I hereby direct every executive department and agency head to take all additional actions as necessary and consistent with existing law to revoke any active security clearance held by the aforementioned individuals and to immediately rescind their access to classified information. All right. Why does that matter? Because now they don't have access to clean anything while Doge is snooping through all the files they want to snoop through and disregard the ones they don't. And I'm saying that for a reason. Now, Doge is sniffing through everything, and we have the USIP or the United States Institution of Peace and USAID basically at the helm of dirty money laundering, kickbacks, and basically just frivolous spending on stupid stuff, right? So again, the things that are happening right now in America, again, they seem like monumental, extreme events. Why would he revoke security clearances? He's trying to exercise his strength. He's just pulling out the big tallywhacky. Whatever you want to call it, this man, Trump, is keeping them away from information that they could put out. Now, we are all asking the same question. Where is the Epstein client list? We all want to know. Now, I've read some reports that they're still going through the documents. It won't be as much redacted. I still want to know why you got to redact stuff. If it has to be redacted, then it's clearly important. If they're redacting stuff in our information like this, and we know they are because the Kennedy files have come out, in which those aren't really new, but some stuff is still redacted. The thing that wasn't redacted was that there was Israeli involvement. Why does that matter? Again, Once you bring these names into it, the story gets deeper. All right. So it's important to understand how security clearances information and redacting information works. If you have that security clearance, I would assume you could find a way to get it redacted or redact it yourself or erase it or delete it like Hillary did her emails. All right. These are just things that have happened over the time that we have to understand. Okay. It's not like I'm making this up. This is all official press. We're covering what's going on with a little bit of twist to it. All right. So the Biden family, or the Biden crime family, as Trump has called them, has lost all security clearance along with prominent Democrats. Hillary Clinton not having a security clearance, it's it's needed, but I'm sure she still has her intel and her way to get information. So this is just another chess move on the board of Trump versus the quote unquote deep state. All right. Now, a lot of this is tying into today's reports and today's events. Now, since the move and before this move, the Democrats have been basically campaigning in red and blue states against Trump and his moves and Elon Musk and Doge. All right. They're basically saying that Trump is trying to create an oligarchy, which we already kind of running on one. And we're going to touch on what an oligarchy is. But for the most part, we have Bernie Sanders on his campaign. He's the big voice because he's been so, I'll call him moderate or not as extreme as the Democrats before him or with him. But Bernie Sanders is known as the left's thinking man, right? So they got him out campaigning right now all over America in different districts, talking about how the Trump empire or the Trump whatever he wants to call it, because he uses a lot of different words to make it seem like this man is out of his mind. Calls it a Trump dictatorship, says that he is basically trying to create an oligarchy, which the Democrats were already trying to do via their elites and rich people and the tax breaks, which is comical to me that they're complaining about the same exact thing. Okay. So here we are. America won't let Trump establish an oligarchic form of government, Bernie Sanders. All right. Now, absolutely stupid. Absolutely stupid. I'm going to tell you why. Because we already are. We're already in that problem. All right. Before we get into this story, I want to define to you what an oligarchy is. All right. Oligarchy is defined by rule by few, is a form of government in which power rests with a small number of people. These people may or may not be distinguished by one or several characteristics, such as nobility, fame, wealth, education, or corporate, religious, political, or military control. Okay, with that said, explain to me how we aren't already this. This is why we're talking about the elitists, the deep state. The deep state is a combination of nobility, fame, wealth, education, corporate, religious, political, and military. That's the deep state. The oligarchy is the deep state. It's laughable right now that Bernie Sanders is up here talking about Trump leading an oligarchy after Kennedy exposed, RF Kennedy Jr. exposed that he was taking kickbacks from Big Pharma. This stuff is laughable, guys. Okay? Think about this. I just explained to you what an oligarchy is, which comes off as the deep state. Trump is still part of this oligarchy, whether it be by fame, wealth, corporate, political, or military. By 4 ways, Trump is already part of the oligarchy. So is Bernie Sanders. And so is everyone in Washington, D.C. Now, there are some good ones. I'm not saying everybody. We know Thomas Massey. For all we know, Jessica Aber could have been one of the good ones and stumbled across some information that did not help her. All right. So it's really important to understand what all these words are, how they're using them, and what they're trying to say. Again, this is propaganda. This is the morning report. We are reporting how they're fucking us. Okay? You have one side saying Trump is an oligarchy, he's doing us wrong. And then you had the other side saying it's the deep state, the left are the oligarchy, they're ruling by the few, technocracy, plutocracy, all these words with crossy at the end, democracy. It's the same thing. You guys, this could be political theater funded yet again through some slush fund, through some nonprofit. When you see these rallies and these events, you have to get permits, you have to plan and organize and construct and do all these things. This is why Trump is on Columbia University's butt right now. All right. Columbia University is one of the most leading colleges of historical psyops. I got documents for that. Been downloading. All right. So back to this oligarchy thing. The minority rule, the consolidation of power by a dominant religious or ethnic minority can be considered a form of oligarchy. See how that works? Examples include South Africa apartheid. You see where we're going. Liberia's Americo Liberians and the Sultanate of Zanzibar. All right. Anything can be considered an oligarchy if it's a small group of people ruling over the majority. So if it's the minority, which are the elites and the wealth and the fame and the political and the military, those are minorities to the bigger picture of us. So these people right now are all part of an oligarchy anyway, masked as a democracy, because democracy doesn't naturally always work in history. Ask the Greeks. So what I'm saying is it's laughable that you have Bernie Sanders, who's on the left side of the oligarchy, saying that the right side of the oligarchy is trying to make an oligarchy. And again, it's one of those situations that you have to kind of take with a grain of salt and understand that it's really full political theater, because both sides are doing the same exact thing. And with Mr. Sanders on his campaign, right? He's pulled out AOC with him, who's considered kind of a radical within the Democrats, and Ilhan Omar, I think that's how you pronounce the young woman's name. Very, very left, right? But they've been laughed at numerous times, and they're some of the biggest hypocrites that from my understanding, and they've all been taking kickbacks like Pelosi. So when you hear about the deep state left, that's just the deep state left. All right. So we're gonna get into this report, this little article. So Bernie says, I'm trying to make it clear to the people throughout the world and throughout our own country that the American people are not going to sit idly by and allow Trump to establish an oligarchic form of government where Musk and other billionaires are running our government, Sanders said in an exclusive interview. This week's co-anchor Jonathan Karl during the tours of Denver stop. So he did 32,000 people in Denver. He did some pretty good numbers, because people are afraid right now. So people are following this. All right. So when people follow this kind of stuff, they get real tied into it because it's on their identity. All right. Identity politics are a real thing. And in America, it's almost everything, because we have to identify with something because we all feel some type of way and we're all using our feelings, and we have to stop using our feelings. Because again, to say that he's allowing Elon Musk and the billionaires to run the government is the same conversation of the right saying the corporations are running the government, which they are. Like, that was part of the Chevron deference and the whole Chevron policy, which gave corporations and agencies and administrative agencies to basically seek out their own policies based on the vagueness of the law. So again, political theater, guys. You're looking at left, right wing. It's the same thing. Two sides of the same coin, but one's in power, so that's all you're getting pushed down your throat. So right now, Trump is the enemy. People are scared. People go ahead and start believing everything the left says. When the left was in power, the right was the saviors. Now It's still that way, but it's just two sides of division. You got one side thinking they're the savior, the other side thinking they're the savior. Nobody's wrong. And that's the craziest part to this whole thing. Both sides think they're right. Both sides. And it's insane because neither one of you are catching the trick. They're both an oligarchy. They're both running the government via billionaires. Like, sure, absolutely. Our elected officials are typically millionaires. We don't have too many billionaires. Trump is a billionaire, all right? So this whole idea of there's a billionaire running the country would be no different than Obama running the country, letting the corporations dictate whatever they want to dictate. It's not any different. Explain to me how you go from being worth 1 million and you're going into office, and then coming out of office you're worth 60, 70, 80 million, but you were supposed to give up all of your rights, sell, and all this stuff. Business is done in a certain way, and there are rules they are going by that we're not going by, and we have to understand that. Okay. All right, moving on to the next article. Oh, 23andMe. All right. 23andMe files for bankruptcy, and Wajikiki steps down as CEO. I couldn't get that. I was trying to get that earlier. Couldn't get it out. All right. So if you know anything about 23andMe, they're basically the DNA testing kit to find out if you are whatever descent, where are you from. And it's really more or less entertainment. It's not really what you think it is. If you read the terms and conditions of it, it's considered entertainment. And if you go on like YouTube and you look for videos, there was a guy on TikTok, I believe, who was swabbing animals' mouth and sending it in, and it was coming back saying that they were this and they were that. And one of the funniest ones was he swabbed a lizard, and it came back as Ash Nazi, which was comical to me. I was floored. Done. But if you know what happened 2 years ago, 23andMe was hit with a data breach to where all the Ashkenazi Jews information was leaked online. Now, me personally, I think that was basically corporate espionage, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because there wasn't really much that was going to get this company shut down, but they weren't really open to buying out initially. So what happens now is that because Ann can't sell it, it's going to go on a chopping block as far as like, I think seized by the government, and is going to get sold off, right? Because she couldn't find a bidder to buy it. So now, if I understand this correctly, what would happen is it would go before the judge, and they would basically start auctioning off pieces of the company. All right, until all the bankruptcy is paid for, like any bankruptcy. Now, what's funny about this is that 23andMe is holding everyone's DNA that is submitted. All right. Now, if you understand where I'm leaning with this and where I could be possibly going with this, you guys got to understand people like DARPA and Alphabet Boys, CIA, the FBI, they all have everyone's data, everyone's DNA, which they pretty much already have anyway through the medical system. All right. If you were born in America, if you've been to the doctor, anything you've done, they got your DNA. But it's different with this because honestly, they could have been selling your DNA, but instead they're gonna break the company down and sell it bit by bit. This DARPA thing and transhumanism and cloning all comes into mind right now. All right. These conversations that we're having about what could happen with them trying to hack the human genome or the DNA code. All right. This is part of that hacking. This is just a very, very shallow, modest layer of that hacking. 23andMe was more than just a DNA collection and ancestry finding tool. All right. They were holding DNA, and I'm quite sure they were doing more with it, and I'm quite sure they had government contracts. Just we're not going to look into it today, but it will be on the topic. But what I'm saying is there's a huge chance that right now 23andMe is about to give up all this DNA, and what can happen from that, I can only imagine. All right. I can really only imagine. What's going on right now out in the world is not what we think it is. These stories that I gave you today, sure, are always considered propaganda, but there is something so much more to them that we don't understand, and that's my job for y'all. I'm the filter. Me, Antonio Hare, will be the filter for all of you to understand that when these stories come out, there's a half truth and a half lie. And a lot of times, if you dig deep enough, you can find the truths quicker than the lie. The lie is already in there. Okay. What we have to really take into consideration is that both sides are playing us. We have to take in consideration that all the psyops and the stories and the theories at some point were true. From the church committee hearings about Mockingbird and the CIA's involvement in press to the Smith-Mundt Act repeal and the modernization of 2012, a lot of our news and propaganda is not factual. It's more entertainment than it is anything. So I find myself doing these little segments to inform you guys of what's out there and what they're possibly doing. Let's go back to the Pope conversation, right? On the surface, you would think is like, hey, the guy just did like a little mock ceremony for Christmas because that's what they do. Not necessarily. That's not exactly normal. If you go back to the Christmas timeline, you understand the Saturnalia runs through December the winter solstice runs through December and November, but Saturnalia runs through that week of Christmas. So Saturnalia is part of that pagan ritual that was adopted and turned into multiple holidays, from Christmas to Hanukkah, Kwanzaa. All of that is on the Saturnalia. And then you get into the end of the Saturnalia, which is at the fake New Year or the cold New Year, January 1st. And then you go into Mardi Gras, which is, the last celebration going into Easter and Lent and Ash Wednesday and all that. All right. From October 31st, basically to like Easter is basically a whole period of rituals and pagan belief. Again, surface level, you would just think that Pope Francis was sick and for 5 weeks he was in a hospital. But if you look at it on a deeper level, he was opening portals months before this, took a lot of energy out of them. Demonic possession is real, people. You can't have it both ways. You can't believe the Bible and call this BS, right? So you guys got to put two and two together and understand that there's something always more to these stories. It's not just the Pope had the flu, he was on his deathbed, probably because he used his body as a vessel for whatever entity was in there or came through him. All right. It's in the Bible. It's in the Emerald Tablets too. It's in Enoch. It's in a lot of things that we talk about. All right. All right. So this is what I'm saying. A lot of the propaganda that we see out in magazines, Facebook, any social media site, they're banking on you just taking it at face value. They're not thinking that you're going to go research it. And then there's a small demographic of people who are researching it and finding out more than they need to know. And those people are what you have deemed as conspiracy theorists. All right, which was a term coined after the JFK assassination. Riddle me that, right? Conspiracy theorists are the ones who are actually looking into this stuff. And now there are people who go real extreme, who say stuff that don't make sense, okay? But you have a group of people who are making sense, who can explain this stuff in the most layman of terms so that the masses can take it and digest it. You can't give this stuff to people all at once because they can't take it. Their mind will overload and they'll be like, "Ah, I don't believe it." That's for you to believe. That's fine. But it doesn't stop the fact that it's happening. It doesn't stop the fact that this is political theater. It doesn't stop the fact that Trump is dismantling pieces of America that probably aren't really needed anymore. The problem that we're having is we don't understand what's going to come behind it. And I think that's what a lot of people are scared of. And guess what? We're going to have to find out anyway. We're going to have to sit here for it, figure it out. We're going to have to do it as a whole. Now, my message to you guys would be to keep your home in order, get your food up, get your ammo up, do things that can keep you alive in the event that it hits the fan. There's nothing guaranteeing that it is going to hit the fan, and there's nothing to say that it won't hit the fan. While there are more signs that it is than it isn't, we have to be really aware not to kind of spread that message of fear. Like, oh, end times, EMP attacks, this and that. While a lot of these things are being worked, weather manipulation, EMP, frequency attacks, targeted individuals, gang stalking, um, heavy surveillance, monitoring, all this stuff is real, but we have to focus on the bigger picture, and that's keeping each other alive in all of this and deciphering the information as it comes down the pipeline and when to pull away from a conspiracy, honestly, because some of these conspiracies, there's a little truth in there and it comes from something, but a lot of times people be hyping stuff up. Y'all be out here hyping stuff up. And I get it. We want new leadership. You know, we've been through so much bad leadership that we're putting all our chips on Trump right now. At least most of America's putting their chips on Trump. I'm putting my chips on myself. I don't trust them anymore. I'm telling you now, most of these people are playing both sides of the table right now. Even if they're not, even if they're at the same table, they may not like each other, but they damn sure don't work in our favor. Now, to keep us quiet and to keep us in place, they'll definitely cut some strings and be like, hey, give them this while we do this, or let them say this so we can go do that overseas. All right. So you guys got to understand that there's always a play somewhere. There's always some type of hidden meaning behind it. Prime example, right? You guys think USAID and USIP was just one of two little slush funds? No, there's many of them. You don't think that Elon also would be on the same government kickbacks and whatnot for Starlink and Neuralink through DARPA and NASA? What would make you think that this guy is different? While yeah, he is finding slush funds. I don't deny that. I don't deny a lot of stuff they're doing. I just explained to you what it could possibly lead to. Instead of jumping for joy, which yes, they are cleaning up a lot of things. You still need to ask some questions though. Like, why are you still donating money overseas? Zelensky was gonna go with the European side, and they're still donating him money. But we want the mineral rights, just like we got the mineral rights in Afghanistan. We went for the mineral rights in Iraq, Libya, Syria, Egypt, Ghana, Ethiopia, Sierra Leone, Brazil. You guys notice a pattern here? Everything that our government does is in the interest of its pockets. It's not in the interest of its people. And it hasn't been for some time. And just because they throw you a bone doesn't mean that they're on your side. Like even churches give out meal plates and dinners. That doesn't, it's still the church. All right. So what I'm saying is pay attention. Don't be so quick to jump into these political arguments with your fellow Americans just because I'm black and you're white, or he's Mexican and Asian, or you're gay and he's straight, or she has blue hair and a liberal and uses pronouns. And stop identifying with the oppression. Like, you guys identify with the oppression they give you instead of living freely and authentic in yourself. And then you try to identify with these people as if you're the same. You're not the same. You don't operate like these people. We are not them. Bernie Sanders crying about Trump's trying to create an oligarchy is laughable. He's doing the same thing. He's on the left side of it. So I'm going to leave this message with you. All right. Stop identifying. Start paying attention. Some of these stories coming out are leading to stuff. Jessica Aber, was on to something. Whether she was Biden appointed or Trump appointed, she dug something up. She met her demise. And honestly, she could have just had a heart attack or an aneurysm and passed away. That's not unheard of either. There's no real information on how she passed away. They just found her that way. Seems like she was in good health. They're real hush-lipped about it and not trying to say anything. But if anyone knows better, there's ways to get rid of people. We all know about the heart attack gun, and we know they can do a lot of fancy stuff with technology now, frequency and just lasers, if you want to believe it. Again, I'm not talking about Jewish space lasers. That's not what I'm mentioning right now. I'm mentioning cold, hard facts, DARPA, dudes. All right? Those are real. So whatever happened to her, it has something to do with her possibly looking into the leaks, the torture allegations, and the Israeli smuggler. And me personally, anytime there's an Israeli, there's definitely some hush-hush business going on when it's involving Mossad, if it was them. All right? So you guys got to really pay attention out here and see these stories for what they are. All right? Before I go, feel free to donate. Feel free to go to that official website, thedailyrabbithole.org. A lot more content will be coming out. Whole lot more writing, a whole lot more videos. I'm still under construction with some certain things, so you'll see the changes as time goes on. All right. Don't forget to follow all my platforms. Don't forget to go to Spotify. I'm on there now. It's the Rabbit Hole Report. I have 2 pages on Spotify by accident. When I started this initially, I was on Podbean and I started the Daily Rabbit Hole podcast, but ended up canceling that and forgot to get rid of the page. So it's on there. It's the first 2 episodes that I've ever done, but the official Spotify page is the Rabbit Hole Report. All right. You can go on there. I'll be on there tonight. This episode is going to get uploaded on there. And tonight's episode will be on there, the Rabbit Hole Report, where we'll talk more about investigative topics and dig a little bit deeper into things that, people think are fake or hush hush. All right. I appreciate your time. I hope you have a great work day. Hope this video finds you and, you learn something from it. All right. Hope these news articles make you dig a little deeper. You guys have a great day. I'll see you tonight.